Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Blaque Falcon podcast. I'm here with a special guest, good friend of mine who I've known for just under a year, and very talented as well. So, of course, that grants you entry as a guest on this show. So, Rachel, hello, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. How's it going?
Very well, very well. Tell us about yourself.
So that's
Where do you start? Start from the beginning then.
Where do I start? Okay, so I think probably most people who see me or know of me probably know me in like a professional capacity. I am from East London. I grew up in East London, quite academically gifted, if you like. Went on to study, train, qualify as a lawyer. But the reason I think we connected really was because of this kind of need to not leave the corporate life behind us, but juggle in the kind of corporate life expectation with our other passions. So in lockdown, I started to get bored and started to realize that maybe law wasn't for me. And also as well, it was like there was a pandemic, right? There was multiple pandemics. So there was like the Black Lives Matter movement was happening. There was, the actual COVID-19. Newham didn't have any water. There was just so many things happening at once. And it just gave me cause to be a little bit more reflective, introspective. So I picked up a paintbrush, which is a weird thing to do, but I did do art GCSE and A-level GCSE.
I didn't know that. Well done.
Yeah. And I fell back in love with it, to be perfectly honest with you. And I've been kind of doing that ever since. Made like a little brand called Pencil, Pastel and Paint, because those are the three mediums that I work in. And yeah, kind of been trudging along with that. Still kind of at the beginning was pursuing law, still very much in practice, working in higher education at like legal clinics, doing a lot of pro bono work, doing a lot of student training around like professional legal ethics, what it means to be a good lawyer, etc. And at that time, I was like in the heart of East London. I was in Mile End, and I was thinking to myself, like, actually, I've spent so many years trying to run away from East London, and I found myself back in the thick of it. There's more that I can be doing. How can I like draw on all of my experiences and also my passions and kind of bring them together? So yeah, that's kind of what's brought me here now. This is where I found myself, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. Newham didn't have any water. I don't remember hearing that.
Honestly, I think if my sister watches this, she'll be like crying with laughter because there was no water in Newham for like a day. Or I don't know if it was the borough. I feel like it was the borough, and everyone had to like run to Morrison's and buy like bottles of water so that we could wash.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, we had food shortages in Chingford as well. Yeah, up in like the local supermarkets and that. Yeah, we had that.
It was just crisis upon crisis.
Yeah,
and I kind of
in that.
Yeah. So me and my sister who were living together at the time, both of us were just being super like reflective and introspective about like what do we actually want to do. Like the world is burning, which was another pandemic, obviously, with global warming and climate change and all of that sort of stuff. How can we kind of live a purpose-filled, purpose-driven life? And then finally I quit law. Kind of. You never really quit law. It's one of those professions where people always still ring up like, I've got this employment dispute, or no, I've got this immigration issue. Like, I'm neither an employment or immigration lawyer, but I'll try and help the best I can. I've kind of come away from it a little bit now, just pursuing art, and that's what I want to do full time and as a career.
So that's your career. So that's your career up until now in terms of law, your success as being a good lawyer so far. Clearly you are, because people are still coming to you with inquiries. So what made you get into, because this is kind of like a thing that I found with Blaque Falcon as well, is there's always that pinch point of what actually gets you into doing what you feel is right for you. Clearly art has always been your thing. And I know that with myself, it's always been a whole coagulum of things. artwork, fashion. I've always been into nice fancy clothes. Every time I remember walking past any menswear store, I used to always like staring at the suits all the time. I want to wear something like that. And even as a child, I remember my grandmother always watching the James Bond movies with Sean Connery wearing all the time. I used to just look at that thing. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's always like the little things that you go through childhood that kind of inspire you to kind of just be whatever you choose to be, which is interesting. And yeah, that's amazing. So what was like your thing that pushed you then? Was it sounds like it was the pandemic, but was there anything else?
Yeah, I think as it sounds really cheesy, but as a Black woman, right, growing up, or mixed race woman growing up in East London, I think there is certain pressures that society puts on you that you have to do. You can't just do something. Everything that you do has to be like exceptional. It has to be like you have to go over and above to even be considered at the same level as, you know, your white counterparts. And that might seem a little bit savage, but I just think it's the truth of the situation. And I think what pushed me to do art was the feeling the need to like break that down. Any Black artists that I saw, it always had to be trauma related. So like it had to be like this really deep cultural, like culturally significant thing, either to do with like slavery or to do with like
all the time
heritage. And like I'm from the East End, and okay, I'm articulate, but I'm about as East End as they get. And,
oh yeah, I know that. That's how we connected, isn't it?
No, I know, right? And I just felt like, actually, no, like if I can apply the same mentality that I did to law to something else, that I can make this work. So that pushed me as well, just having like the confidence that actually, if I can overcome those legal barriers to entry, which were high, because even when I was graduating, John Smith was still managing partner, and John Smith's son was partner, and John Smith's grandson was an associate. Those structures still exist and existed back when I was qualifying. You know, if I can overcome that, then I can definitely work for myself and do this. So that pushed me as well. Like I said, it was not even so much the pandemic, and as much as like, oh, you know, the world's coming to an end, but it just, everyone had time on their hands. Like I had a lot of time on my hands to be able to think like, what do I actually want to do? If I was to, and it sounds morbid, but if I was to die tomorrow, you know, my employer would send out an advert probably within the week, you know, or within the 2 weeks. And that realization of, okay, I actually have to live for myself, dawned on me. You know, I always, when I speak to people, always compare it to like a hamster wheel. Like you're trapped in a hamster wheel, or like a sausage factory.
That's exactly it.
You go to school, you're pushed to do well academically. You know, if you're creatively, you know, intelligent, that's great. But it's almost encouraged that you keep that on the side because it's not considered safe. You know, there's only one Beyonce. There's only like, you know, there's only ever been one Michael Jackson. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always considered a risk. And
absolutely.
And so, if you're academically gifted, people say, well, it's a much stronger or more safe route to take. So, you know, the hamster wheel constantly is that, like, you go into another year of education, you sit an exam, that exam shows how intelligent or academic you are. And then, you know, if you're sufficiently intelligent, then you go to university, and the hamster wheel continues even in the world of work, even after you come out of university, right? You go into the world of work, and then it's like a 9 to 5. Like, I have to be pleasant. I can't be confrontational. I can't say what I need to say about things. I have to just kind of
make sure you're clean shaven, Ikenna.
That you have to like give in to like the social construct of like,
I know what you mean.
The strategies that the people at the top want to implement, more often than not, don't align with the views that I have and the things that I see on the ground. So yeah, that was another thing that probably that whole hamster wheel thing. Is like an analogy that I use often to describe why I left it.
It's funny because that's exactly what I describe in Drax as well. That's exactly how I described it, because that's how I knew it was, because that book actually came out from a lot of frustration coming out of uni, thinking, oh, is this it?
Yeah.
And the whole basis of the story is someone who comes out of uni and goes through that. But I basically just put my imagination and just dramatize the whole thing. So
but this is the thing, right? Like with you and I think, yeah, with you and I think that like we obviously had that other outlet. And so it was clear to us that like, okay, I love art, I love drawing, I love painting. That's something that I want to do. I think there are a lot of people out there that don't even know they're in the hamster wheel, who haven't even, because they just haven't been given, no one's had a chat with them. Like when I go into schools, I say to kids all the time, like, what do you enjoy and what are you good at? And they're like, maths, English, science, da, 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 da. Yeah, but there's other things, you know, like there's more. And I think that the conversations aren't being had, like, do you know what I mean, with kids, to be like,
I remember one time in school, in primary school, I think I lost my jumper, and everyone had to wear a jumper. And this is a Jewish private school. And I remember I went to, I remember went to the teacher. I was really, really small at the time. I can't even remember what year. It must have been the late 90s. I'm showing my age now. And the only jumper they had was a cardigan.
Right.
But back then, cardigans was only seen as something that only girls wear. But I just didn't care. I'm like, yeah. I just felt like, cool. But I think that was one of the moment, like the rare moments in school or as a child, as a baby, thinking, oh, okay, so I like this.
Right.
But of course, to your parents, yeah, I have to pass those exams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, actually. Yeah, yeah. I have these conversations often with people who I talk to, because some people as well, right, aren't fussed about being in the hamster wheel. They're fully acknowledged that they're in it, and they're like, they're not ambitious. Like I've got some friends who are like, no, just give me my salary. Like I want to have my family. I want to chill. I don't want to cause any problems. I just want to have a peaceful life, and that's okay too.
It's absolutely fine.
I was that little kid who walked into year 7 with my satchel with buckles on it and my pair of glasses and my slip-on Vans, and I knew what I liked, and that was it, you know. And that's it's a great thing to have a headstrong child. And when you see a headstrong child now, like I feel like they are not suppressed, but like I feel like the hamster wheel was worse than it ever was when we were kids. I think it's only got worse because of the pressures of social media.
Yeah.
And the pressures of the digital age, and like
and it's also easier to work because you can also work from home,
right?
So it's kind of made this, it's created this environment where, oh, okay, if you want to be at home, you can be at home, just keep on working.
Yeah, exactly.
Work on the weekends, why not? Sunday morning.
Yeah, emails on my phone, Zooms on my phone.
Oh yeah.
Like honestly,
virtual calls every week. Yeah.
Honestly, like yeah, it's just it's a big thing, and some people love it, and that's fine. I didn't. I know I don't, and I want to get out of it. And I'm more than willing to open up the conversation to anybody else who wants to get out of their, or what they perceive as their hamster wheel as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of that, and that is like the ethos of pencil, pastel, and paint. Like it's not just, oh, this chick from East London likes drawing and she likes painting and she wants to sell it. Actually, no, it's more than that. It's actually it's a brand of like of other things. It represents other things. It represents those people who want to do career changes. And as well, I'm not saying as well that I will never practice law again. Like I don't regret practicing law. I don't regret.
I know who to turn to now.
Honestly, I don't regret working in higher education and doing all of that work with students and stuff. I don't regret that. It's all just equipped me for the space that I'm in now. But I just think that people don't realize that they have options, and everyone says it, but I feel like it's something more often spoken about than acted on, that like life is too short.
So, which then kind of moves me on to the next question then. So you've made this transition, this subtle transition into artwork then, but the one thing that actually stops and puts a lot of people off are obstacles, doubts, rebuffs, failures, etc. For me, failure doesn't really exist in my vocabulary. There's only lessons. And I only like to see it as long as you're learning, you're always winning.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. You're always winning. Okay. Something that may be easily perceived as a loss can easily be seen as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost £100 yesterday. Okay. What did I learn? Not to spend £100 on something that doesn't make sense, for example.
Yeah.
And that's how I choose to see things now. So in terms of your progression and to where you are now, or where you are desiring to be, what are the obstacles that you've faced or currently facing right now?
I think there's been a few. I think for everybody, one of the massive things is money. So even if you have a passion, the cost of training in another field, or the idea of going back to university when, like, bro, I've got bills to pay. Like, I can't just quit my job and then think, okay, I'm going to pick up this course that might put me a few grand down again. Like, I think that's a massive hurdle, like financial hurdles. This is why the conversations need to be had, because, like, for me, I knew I have bills to pay. I can't just quit my job. I can't just, like,
same here.
I can't just abscond. You know.
Not yet, anyway.
However, you would be surprised how many people are willing to help you when you speak out. Like, I've got an exhibition coming up, right? I said to them, hey, this is my story. I work full time. You're going to have to work with me, blah, 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 blah. People, if you can show that you believe in what you're doing, you can get, people will just jump on board. People are willing to help. I think it's that fear of rejection, but that holds people back. And also I do think as well, a little bit of it is that people feel like there's just not enough time in the day, especially if you've got kids or you're a carer or you've got other commitments. You know, you work 9 to 5. People might feel like, oh, you know, then going to a night class or doing like some volunteering in the evening is a bit much. If you want it enough, you will do it.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that will be me. You know, that is me. I wake up 6 o'clock. I'm painting till 9. 9 to 5, I work. 5 till 8, I'm painting again while it's daylight. In the winter, it was different. I'm painting again. 8 o'clock, I eat, or I'm trying to eat at 7. I don't like eating after 7 just because, you know. But I eat. Then I'll do my life admin in the evenings when it's dark. I'm like, okay, and that's, you know, burnout is a thing and people do get exhausted, but I want this so badly that I'm going to put in everything that I've got to make a success of it. So yeah, I think fear of rejection, fear of failure is definitely a thing for people. I've overcome that by kind of thinking, you know, if I don't do it, I'm going to be miserable day in, day out. I will be miserable. I will be complaining. Everyone will have to listen to me in the pub talking about how annoyed I am at like the life that I lead.
But you see your artwork as a form of therapy. Yeah, therapy, in its own way. So really, you're doing what you enjoy doing as not only as something that you desire to do, but also as a way to kind of zone out away from the doubt. Really, you're not really embracing any doubt. You're just doing what you say you want to do, but not really focusing your attention, which is a very important word, attention on the doubts or the obstacles that you're facing. Excellent.
And as well, I think it's a massive thing that, like, as for me anyway, money isn't my motivation.
Exactly.
So I paint for me, I draw for me, but I love it. If things come out of it, grand.
No, they will.
But no, I know. But at the time when I was making the transition, I was thinking, you know, if things come out of it, grand. If it doesn't, then I've not lost anything. You know, I've still got. It's that like self-confidence. That, like, my older sister, who's a genius, said, like, Rachel, you need to develop this unshakable confidence. That's what she calls it, that unshakable confidence. And it's not about being cocky or arrogant, but it's like, well, actually, it's not the end of the world. I'm fully prepared at this moment in time, to go and work in a pub full time if it means that frees up space for me to do my painting. Because I realized, actually, I don't need to live a surplus life. I worked out what the base is that I need in order to have my bills paid and for me to have a reasonably enjoy myself. And I will sacrifice the surplus so that I can be happy. Yeah. I don't need the designer's clothes. I don't. Was it you that I was telling you about my personal policy of like I don't spend over £20 on a garment?
No, that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, I've got all of these personal policies now. Of like I don't spend over £20 on a garment. You know, I'm very strict with myself, but I think it takes that if you're very serious about making these sorts of transitions. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. It does. You answered it brilliantly. Yeah, yeah. So what's the difference between the corporate world and being an artist right now?
Okay, through fear of every time I do these sorts of interviews, everyone's like, "Oh, Rachel, so deep." But I do think it needs to be said. I think, do you know what the difference is? Sorry, between the corporate world and the creative world.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer it, but I want to hear your answer. I mean, I know I can go into. I can spend another hour talking about that.
Yeah, rabbit holes. I think that the main difference is that I have no control over the corporate world. It's a structure. There is a structure that no matter how many emails I send about Black History Month, no matter how many times I send the email to say it's a little bit worrying that I'm the only Black person in the faculty. Like no matter how many, there's a construct that I can't. It has to come from the top.
Yeah.
And there are people, activists out there. Kelechi Okafor is one of them, who is constantly speaking out about these sorts of things. However, I have chosen my time is better spent doing something where, for example, my art, where I can create it. So I can create this, and I've literally just posted a job out for a photographer, and I've put in it has to be committed to anti-racist practices, because I am going to call you out on it. You know, I am going to ask you about yourself. I don't want to have a team of people where I've just read your CV. Yeah, you've got the credentials, but I know nothing about the way that you live your life. It's very important to me that I know how you lead your life and that it aligns with my values. Yeah. So that's why I've chosen the creative world. I think the corporate world is sucky. I think that it's become very it's always been very dog eat dog, but I think that it's become even more so for political reasons, but equally political and economical reasons. But I also think that there's a massive pressure on graduates especially graduates, to do more than they reasonably can. I was talking to someone from medicine who works in medicine, who said that the entry requirements are now A star, A star, A for King's College, or someone's going to call me out if I'm wrong, A star, AA. And the students that go there have like this mentality of like they are literally giving everything that they've got, and that's not life.
No,
you shouldn't have to work every hour that God sends to be successful or to be happy, you know. And I think that's the problem with the corporate world. Everyone expects you to just keep going. Everyone loves to talk about well-being and mindfulness and corporate social responsibility and blah 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 blah, but really, are big businesses actually listening to their employees when they say, like, I am burning out? Like, if someone has constant burnout and is off sick for a certain amount of days, their ass will still be dragged into HR to have a chat about, you know, absences and sickness. Like, we can't in the one breath say, oh, well-being, etc., mental health, etc., and then in the next breath still be following these archaic practices. And that is, I think, the root problem in a lot of the corporate businesses that I've worked with over the years. Like, they're still very archaic in their practices and like to say, like, oh, this is the case, but actually, is it? I feel like I'm being very controversial, but I don't intend to be. And this isn't even me like slagging off the corporate world. It's what's pushed me to sort of get out of it.
It's been a stepping stone, if anything.
Yeah.
Because you've basically taken, like myself, you've taken everything that you've learned from that side and applied it to your artistry, because now you're a lot more organized. You know what you want. You're very clear in your direction, whereas someone who may not have had that may not be as clear and as direct. With myself, you know, in project management, it's like it's easy for me to organize and schedule a photo shoot for Blaque Falcon, because I mean I do that every single week where I am right now, organizing people, can you come at this time, this slot, this, that? Okay, let's set up a program. Let's make sure that we don't do this and do that. You know, for me, it's like straight up military. That, you know, put. So you kind of take what you learn at one place and then apply it to another, which is human alchemy. If anything, that's the best thing ever. Excellent.
And that's the thing as well. I don't think that this is. It's not even like I'm like, oh, these corporations. I still changed it. Like I was pitching this. I think it's to my dad, who is also a genius. I said to him, like, I would love one day to be able to go to these law firms and do like an away day where we sit, we chat, we paint, we draw, we do all these sorts of things, you know, and we share our stories and try and get, especially with lawyers, like get the other things out of them that they're good at that are not law, you know. Yeah, so exactly. I still want to make changes, but you know, one step at a time.
Exactly. So what's next in the future then for you? For Paint or Pastel Paint? What's happening?
Wrong. Pencil, pastel, paint. You're always like paint, pastel, pens.
I said it right this time, did I?
You did, yeah. So what's next? I have a really exciting exhibition coming up on the 20th of May, which is a Friday. It's at Hackney Bridge. It's going to be like a really immersive experience. The project's called 50 Faces. It focuses on thoughts and feelings around identity and community. I've got spoken word artists coming down to share their journey. It's all about, well, I like to say it's all about East London, but it's all about community. So for me, it's all about East London. It's about bringing those talented people from East London back to the heart of East London to show what they've done. Yeah. So I believe Ikenna is going to be reading from your book, which will be fabulous.
Ooh, I only just found out like a few minutes ago. Yeah,
that would be great.
That'll be interesting. So will I have a mic then on stage and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, can I literally just put down the mic and put down my, be like, you know, look, you know, and kind of give like a rally speech and stuff, just trying to, you know, like be all radical and stuff.
I feel like I need to give you a very short leash.
Okay,
we'll do a run through.
What I'll probably do, I will, just to kind of all jokes aside, what I'll probably end up doing, I'll read the excerpt from Drax and then go into a little bit deeper on what I meant by writing that specific passage in the book, and that's it.
Yes.
I won't go crazy.
But it's also about you. This is the thing as well. Like I've tried to say to you, this exhibition.
Yeah. No, I'll talk about my
journey
and all that. Yeah, I can do that. Certainly, absolutely. Yeah, and I can go into depth about that. But then I'll have to. I mean, how much time would I have? 10 minutes?
About 15.
Fine. That's perfect. I can go into enough detail in 15 minutes. I can read the passage from the book, and then put that down, and then talk about my journey, about things I've gone through, and how I've overcome them, and how I healed myself.
Yeah, I mean, I've given all the spoken word artists free reign, almost free reign on like what they want to cover in the 15 minutes, because
I'm happy to take your lead.
Because it's not about me. Like it is a little bit about me because obviously I'm the person that founded Pastel, but it's actually not. I'm inviting charities, community centers, schools, colleges, universities, you know, my friends, my family, their friends, families, colleagues, local businesses. I want it to just be a hub where people can talk and where we can start to rebuild, I think. It's very important to me that it was in Stratford. I still class it as Stratford. Like,
it is Stratford.
Well, it's technically Hackney, isn't it? It falls under the borough of Hackney, but for me, it's still E15. I don't care. You can call it E20 as much as you want, but it's not. Like, I don't even know.
E15 is Hackney. It's always been Hackney.
E15 is Stratford.
No, it's not. It's Hackney.
It is. No, it's not. E5 is Hackney, isn't it?
Yeah, E5 is okay. Yeah, that's probably why I'm getting it confused. All right, yeah, E5 is definitely Hackney.
Yeah,
but you saying that they're now saying it's Stratford now.
Well, no, they're saying so. The postcode for Hackney Bridge is E15. So I was like, oh, it's Stratford, but technically it's called Hackney Bridge, and it's also really weird because like it's one of those places, isn't it? The Olympic Village, where you've got like Waltham Forest down the road, Hackney's down the road, Tower Hamlets is down the road, Newham's down the road. Basically, you're all welcome. Shoreditch, you're all welcome. Tickets are there is a ticket system.
I'm going to leave a link in the description below.
Yeah, but equally, anyone who has a local business or is a resident of Newham, of anyone local in that area,
Wolfram Forest, Tower Hamlets,
yeah.
Shoreditch, all
And
of
you've
that.
got a group of people that you want to come as part of maybe a group or a community group, please feel free to send me a separate email.
What's your email?
It's racheldoesartnow@gmail.com, which
So
I think
Rachel
is
does
so
art now. So that's RACHAEL.
no,
Does,
Rach.
oh, Rach. So
Yeah.
RACH does DOESART at
That just
gmail.com.
art now, NOW.
NOW.
I'll post it, but I thought it was super catchy, and then my dad was like, "It's a bit cheesy," but yeah. So everyone's welcome. That's what's coming up, and then I've got a second launch on the 23rd of June at Timber Lodge, and yeah, the purpose is to basically, as time goes on, create new projects that speak to different people, and then get different collaborators. So, you know, I'm looking at like graduate photographers, people that want to build their portfolio, people that are starting from zero. You don't have to be qualified to, like, I'm starting from zero. Like, I don't have any art credentials, you know, apart from my A level. But
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not about having the experience as such. It's just about having the passion, having the, you know, the right attitude. And yeah, so anyone that's even interested in jumping on board, any artists like happy to collaborate, or that performance art I'm interested in as well. Just yeah, so that's what I've got coming up. Yeah.
Excellent. So where can people find you in closing?
You can find me on Instagram at pencil, pastel, and paint, all one word, and then an underscore. That's probably the best place to find me, because I don't really use Twitter very much, and I don't use Snapchat. And yeah, Facebook is like my personal Facebook, right? So for like all my artwork at pencil, pastel, and paint. Another thing I wanted to mention as well was that our collaboration, Ikenna, and that the way that we work together. I'm also interested in other people that have got that similar sort of like, I work full time but also have this passion to do something else thing. Like, I'm super interested in hearing from people like that. I'm working with Iris, one of my closest friends. Yeah, Iris is an amazing brand. It's almost like a charity for women, a community for women. She's in the process of developing loads of really groundbreaking stuff to help women on a day-to-day basis. She'll be at my exhibition. But yeah, all people like that, people who are just trying to help people, trying to share their experiences and stuff. I'm interested in hearing.
Let's do that. So anyone who's interested in anything, just send Rachel an email. The email address will be inside the description below. And yeah, let's take it from there then. All right. We will see some of you, if you're listening at the time of this recording, on the 20th of May in Stratford. And what's the venue called again?
Hackney Bridge.
Hackney Bridge, and then Timber Lodge.
Venue.
Huh?
It's actually a great venue. Like, for just eating, drinking. They've got loads of local street vendors, loads of local businesses, loads of startups. Like, it's a really great venue just to swing by.
Okay, yeah, so you can literally just hear the music. Yeah, hear the music. Good vibes, good time. Yeah, let's do that. All right. Peace and love, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.